So here's what I'm thinking. I thought I was going to make it through Election Day. As many of you know, I've been trying to be more peaceful and less agitated, and I think I was going to hold on until after the voting process, but the last few weeks of the political season have been, for me, too much to take. And it's not even the usual stuff that's making me crazy. The people taking other people's words out of context. The finding some extreme survey or study and then claiming it as fact. I mean, hell, this year, people haven't even worried about that. They've just told flat out lies and put it in as many advertisements as they could buy. Unfortunately, I've gotten so used to these tactics that this year, those things didn't even make my blood boil. No, I think for me what's been hard to watch and what has caused the most outrage is when whatever group was in power tried to use that power to make decisions or laws for people other than themselves, or tried to hoard and keep that power for only those who already had it. The cases that I'm talking about have been involving men in power working to legislate decisions for women on topics such as rape and pregnancy and contraception, and people who already had the benefits of marriage legislating to not allow anyone else in. Now, it is not that I don't give people the right to have their own opinions. On the contrary, there is something wonderful as well as powerful when we hear a person say, "Here is what I believe with all my heart and all my soul." This is passion, the kind of passion that can be contagious, especially when we hear somebody say, "And I invite you to join me." But when a person changes from saying, "Here's what I believe," to now say, "Here is what you need to believe," that is oppression. Because the nature of the statement goes from invitation to command, which is indeed what I think is happening. Because there are people in power who are not just saying that they believe these things. They are saying that we need to pass laws to make it illegal to disagree with them. And here's the rub. When it comes to men legislating on issues such as rape and pregnancy and contraception, the results of your decisions are ones that need to be borne by people other than you. And I do not believe that you have the credibility or the right to do that. So when you say things like, when a woman becomes pregnant after she is raped, you just believe that it is God's will, I just don't know why your personal definition of what God had in mind gives you the right to base laws. We'll get to the whole God's will thing in a moment, but tell you what. When you start telling other men that erectile dysfunction is God's will, and they should just celebrate it for the gift that it is, as opposed to creating $1 billion pharmaceutical response and then making sure that that response is covered by healthcare insurance, then I perhaps will be a little bit more open to your thoughts on women's health issues. Now, I know the double standard that men have employed in terms of sexual language and freedom is nothing new, but frankly, I'm a little bit tired of the fact that a state representative in Michigan gets censured for using the word vagina on the House floor, but I have to sit through 8 commercials for Viagra while watching the Packer game with my son. Just what do you say to a 9-year-old that wants to know why you should call your doctor if you have an erection lasting for more than 4 hours? And although I could go on and on about how men are taking steps to legislate the behavior of women, maybe it goes beyond the whole men thing and into the power thing, into how the majority sometimes take steps to hoard the power that they have, but apparently no one else should enjoy. That certainly seems to be evident in this season when some of us who have benefited from the right to marry a person we have fallen in love with, sometimes several times with several people. Perhaps the slogan should be marriage is between one man and one woman and one lawyer. But how some people believe that God is telling the world that same-sex couples who want to get married will not only destroy the sanctity of marriage, but of all that is, say it with me in all caps, about the American way of life. Now, I will set aside for a moment the fact that our country was started by people who were trying to escape religious persecution and governments telling them what they should do. And I will set aside for a second the whole concept of the founders' belief in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, I don't need anyone's heads to explode, but let me remind you of two things. First of all, the main reason that people do not need to worry about same-sex couples crashing our society as we know it is because almost every couple that I know is just too exhausted to worry about anarchy. Exhausted with driving their kids to soccer games and helping out with homework, exhausted by trying to hang on to their jobs or volunteering for the coat drive at church or any of 100 different things on their list. Now, I say almost every couple I know because I also know two couples who are completely obnoxious, who are way too into themselves, who seem to have way too much time and way too much money, and basically tend to be self-absorbed jerks. But that's also the point. Same-sex couples are not awful people. But same-sex couples are not also amazing and beautiful people. They're just people, like all of us. And sometimes they fall in love. And sometimes we see that love and we think to ourselves, oh my gosh, you two are soulmates. You were meant to be with each other for the rest of your lives. And sometimes we see that love and we think to ourselves, honey, what are you doing? I give it 2 years. But what we can't do and what we can't say is your love is not valid and does not count as much as my love does. Again, it's a power thing. And some people are trying to use the power that they have to make their beliefs the law of the land. Now, please know, I am not trying to change your mind. I'm not. I give up on that. You know, my wife is a wonderful, incredibly intelligent, gorgeous, fantastic woman who is also extremely afraid of fire. Enough so that she believes that there could somehow be some sort of power surge that would cause all of our small appliances in the house to suddenly become like Molotov cocktails and burst into flames and burn down the house while we slept. I have tried for decades to convince her that this just wasn't logically true. I finally gave up, knowing that there were probably about 10 things that she knew about me that were not correct, that she would also love to convince me to change. But while my wife's fear of fire was real and valid for her, it certainly wasn't going to dictate how the rest of us in the house live. I give her the right to believe that the coffee maker and the toaster are going to explode any day now, but also she needs to understand that we are not going to unplug every appliance in the house before we go to bed. I get that there are people out there who are afraid of gay people and would rather not see them involved in their day-to-day life. You have the right to be against same-sex marriage. So don't go to the wedding. Don't buy them a gift. Shun them at the block party. Don't buy Girl Scout cookies from their kids when they knock on your door. I get it. I give you the right to be scared of, or creeped out by, or uncomfortable with gay people. Just don't pass laws that discriminate against them. Let me just say one last thing. Can we please stop the link between people in power and God's will? Now, when you say that you have thought about and prayed on and discerned about what God's will is for you, I completely and utterly respect that. But I do ask you to give me the same right. I do ask you to give me the same right to think and pray and discern about how God may be speaking to me. But I fear that you don't trust me to do that. And even worse, you don't trust God to be able to do that. And if that is the case, if either God is not powerful enough to communicate to people in a way that they can understand, so God needs translators, or that God has decided to mostly only speak to men, and not just men, but primarily older white men, if either one of these is true, that would not be what I would call a powerful or inclusive or loving God, and certainly not one I think we would want to follow. Perhaps enough. Huh? Enough. Enough already. And maybe it goes for me too. I was going to say, one way or another, tomorrow it will all be over. But as long as people in power will use that power to try to exclude or hoard or command or oppress, until we start demanding that people in power use it for the common good, our work is just beginning. So, give me a day, one day, to recover, and then I will once again join you in that fight.